The South China Sea has once again become a flashpoint, drawing the world's attention to its turbulent waters and the high-stakes power plays unfolding there. Recently, the USS Higgins, a U.S. Navy destroyer, sailed close to Scarborough Shoal, a small but strategically vital reef fiercely claimed by both China and the Philippines. This area, though seemingly remote, has become a symbol of broader regional tensions. In response, China's military quickly tracked the American warship, issuing a stern warning and demanding its immediate withdrawal. Chinese authorities accuse the U.S. of trespassing and escalating tensions in what they consider their territorial waters. This tense standoff comes on the heels of a recent collision between Philippine and Chinese vessels in the same contested area, highlighting just how volatile the situation has become. Each incident adds another layer of uncertainty and risk. Scarborough Shoal now serves as a stage for dangerous standoffs, where military vessels from rival nations operate in dangerously close proximity, raising the stakes for all involved. The United States insists these missions are routine, asserting they are legal under international law and necessary to uphold freedom of navigation. China, however, views them as direct provocations and a challenge to its sovereignty. At the heart of the conflict lies a fundamental disagreement over maritime rights and boundaries, with overlapping claims fueling diplomatic and military confrontations. The U.S. presence is a deliberate signal. Washington openly rejects China's sweeping maritime claims, aiming to reassure allies and deter unilateral actions. For China, responding forcefully is about more than just territory. It's a demonstration of national resolve and a message to both domestic and international audiences that it will defend its ambitions at all costs. This encounter is more than a single event. It's a vivid snapshot of a much larger ongoing geopolitical struggle, where every maneuver is closely watched by the world. With every close encounter, the risk of miscalculation and unintended conflict grows, making the South China Sea one of the world's most dangerous maritime flashpoints. Scarborough Shoal may be small, just a ring of rocks and reefs in the middle of the South China Sea, but its significance is enormous, both for the people who depend on it and for the nations that lay claim to it. Located just 120 nautical miles from the Philippines, it's a vital fishing ground that has sustained generations of Filipino families, providing food and livelihood for countless coastal communities. Scarborough Shoal also sits well within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone as defined by international law, giving the country special rights to its resources. For China, the shoal, known as Huangyan Island, anchors its expansive claims in the South China Sea, forming a key part of its so-called 9-dash line. Control of the shoal offers immense strategic military value, potentially allowing China to project power much closer to the Philippines and to monitor or even control key international shipping lanes that carry trillions of dollars in trade each year. Since 2012, China has maintained a constant and often aggressive presence, frequently blocking Filipino fishermen from their traditional waters and fueling anger and frustration in Manila. The shoal has become a powerful symbol of resistance for the Philippines, a rallying point for national pride and sovereignty, and a flashpoint for international tension that draws global attention. U.S. naval patrols in the area are seen as vital support by Manila, but as unwelcome intrusion by Beijing, adding another layer of complexity to the standoff. The fate of Scarborough Shoal reflects the broader struggle over who sets the rules in the South China Sea, a contest not just for territory, but for influence, security, and the future of the region. Its strategic and symbolic value far outweighs its size, making this tiny shoal one of the most contested and consequential places in the world's oceans. China's response to the USS Higgins was immediate and uncompromising. The PLA accused the U.S. of violating China's sovereignty and undermining regional stability. Beijing framed the U.S. patrol as a deliberate political challenge in its own backyard. China claimed to have expelled the American vessel, projecting strength to both domestic and international audiences. This narrative reinforces China's resolve to defend its claims and push back against perceived U.S. interference. Beijing consistently labels U.S. naval activity as foreign meddling, arguing that regional disputes should be resolved locally. China views freedom of navigation operations as provocations designed to embolden rival claimants. Control of the South China Sea is central to China's economic security and national defense. Any challenge to its claims is seen as a threat to its core interests. China's actions are part of a determined effort to turn historical claims into reality. The U.S. conducts freedom of navigation operations to challenge what it sees as excessive maritime claims. By sailing near disputed areas, the U.S. signals it does not accept China's sweeping assertions over the South China Sea. The U.S. insists it upholds international law, and the principle that the high seas are open to all. These waters are vital for global trade, making freedom of navigation a core interest. The U.S.-Philippines Mutual Defense Treaty further raises the stakes, obligating U.S. support if Philippine forces are attacked. American patrols are a visible commitment to maintaining the international order. They remind allies and adversaries alike that the U.S. will operate wherever international law allows. For the Philippines, the South China Sea dispute is a direct threat to national security and livelihoods. Manila has condemned China's aggressive actions, filing diplomatic protests after recent collisions. Scarborough Shoal and other contested areas lie within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone, granting it rights to resources. Chinese Coast Guard and militia vessels routinely block Filipino fishermen and disrupt resource exploration. In response, the Philippines has strengthened its alliance with the U.S., expanding military cooperation and publicizing incidents to rally international support. The issue is deeply personal for Filipinos, fueling national pride and public outrage. The government faces pressure to defend its territory and resources. Manila is now more assertive, pushing back against Chinese encroachment while seeking to avoid direct conflict. The Philippines stands on the front line of a dangerous regional struggle. Its actions could shape the future balance of power in the South China Sea. The South China Sea is witnessing a steady escalation of confrontations. What were once rare standoffs are now frequent and increasingly dangerous. China deploys its Coast Guard and maritime militia to assert control, often using aggressive tactics like water cannons and ramming. This gray zone strategy falls below the threshold of open conflict, making it hard for rivals to respond without risking escalation. Beijing's approach gradually changes the status quo, wearing down smaller nations. Each incident raises the stakes, turning the region into a potential flashpoint. The daily actions of coast guards and fishermen now carry the risk of triggering a much larger conflict. The world is watching as tensions mount. At the heart of the South China Sea dispute is a clash over international law. The Philippines and its partners cite the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS, as the legal framework. In 2016, an international tribunal ruled in favor of the Philippines, rejecting China's 9-dash line as baseless. China dismissed the ruling, insisting its claims are rooted in historical rights predating UNCLOS. Beijing argues the dispute is about sovereignty, not subject to international arbitration. This creates a fundamental divide. Should global rules or national power decide maritime boundaries? The U.S. and its allies demand adherence to international law, while China asserts its own historical narrative. The outcome will shape whether the world is governed by shared rules or by the will of the powerful. The stakes go far beyond a few islands and reefs. The future of the global order is on the line. The South China Sea is a tinderbox, crowded with military and civilian vessels from rival nations. A single miscalculation, a collision or misread signal, could trigger a rapid escalation. Deep mistrust between the U.S. and China heightens the risk, as each side views the other's presence as a threat. Communication protocols exist, but poor political relations limit their effectiveness. An accident involving the Philippines could draw in the U.S., risking a direct clash between superpowers. The nightmare scenario is a crisis spiraling out of control before diplomacy can intervene. The world's economy depends on the stability of these waters. Preventing miscalculation is critical to global security and prosperity. The challenge is to manage tensions before they become irreversible. The South China Sea dispute is not just about territorial claims or maritime rights. It is also deeply intertwined with the rising tensions over Taiwan. The waters here have become a flashpoint, where the interests of global powers intersect and sometimes collide. Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has repeatedly warned that his country's close proximity to Taiwan puts the Philippines at significant risk if conflict were to erupt there. With just a narrow stretch of sea separating the two, any escalation could quickly spill over and impact Filipino communities and national security. In response, Manila has moved to deepen its security partnership with the United States, allowing expanded access to key military bases near Taiwan under the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement. This move is seen as a way to strengthen the country's defensive posture and ensure rapid response capabilities. For Washington, these bases are more than just outposts. They are vital strategic assets that could play a crucial role in any potential Taiwan crisis, enabling the U.S. to project power and respond quickly to developments in the region. For the Philippines, the presence of U.S. forces and joint military exercises not only bolster its own defense, but also serve as a deterrent against aggression, whether from disputes in the South China Sea or from the risk of conflict spilling over from Taiwan. President Marcos has also emphasized the safety of the over 150,000 Filipinos living and working in Taiwan. Protecting these citizens is a key reason for strengthening ties with the U.S., and the government has even conducted evacuation drills to prepare for any emergency. China, however, views this growing alignment between the Philippines and the U.S. as a direct threat to its interests. Beijing has issued stern warnings, accusing Manila of stoking regional tensions and undermining peace in Asia. Caught between its powerful neighbor to the north and its treaty ally across the Pacific, the Philippines faces a delicate balancing act, navigating complex diplomatic waters while trying to safeguard its own sovereignty and security. The security of the entire region is now deeply interconnected. A crisis in the South China Sea or over Taiwan could easily ignite broader conflict, drawing in multiple countries and raising the stakes for everyone involved. In this tense environment, the stakes for peace and stability have never been higher. The choices made by leaders today will shape the future of Asia and the world for years to come.